reality. And, they just sort of take the energy and run with it. I'm going to turn this over to Bill right now.
Let me give you a little bit of a perspective on a little bit about how I grew up, and then give you an idea of where I am now. As many of you know, I'm 63, and all of the inventions and all the stuff that I've done on distance energy was done at 60, around 60, 59, or older. And these inventions are some of the most profound inventions that I believe anybody could ever come up with. The effects of them are totally and completely profound. So let me kind of give you a synopsis of how I kind of grew up, and then give you an idea of where I think we are now and what's going to be happening in the future. I was always very, very mentally active, and I remember in school that I couldn't understand why other people were so slow. And I just never knew why. I was always big, I was in good shape, I was aggressive, and my mind was going 1,000,000 miles a minute, but it didn't seem to be able to get me traction. I did well in school, got scholarships, got a degree in chemistry, all that kind of stuff, but yet everything seemed to go so slow. I couldn't make it go at the speed that I wanted to. Finally, it was interesting that by the time I was 32, I had my own business sort of miraculously, managing money, and I had probably the top track record of managing money in the United States. I was probably doing between 30 and 40% a year, trading no-load mutual funds, and the money just poured in. And as it poured in, it became more and more difficult for mutual funds to hold the money I was managing. And so by the time I was 45 years of age, actually even before that a little bit, the mutual funds had basically shut down my ability to use this incredible medium of trading that I had developed expertise in. In the meantime, I had developed also an ability to trade stock index futures, which made me the top trading performer in the U.S. Trading Championships between 1982 and 84, when the contests were put on by the Wall Street Journal, sponsored by a guy named Norm Zada, who was a PhD in math at Stanford. He told me statistically I had the best record of any futures trader that he was monitoring, and he had some great ones in there, people that were willing to actually put their performance on the line to have people see on a week-to-week basis how they could actually do against other people performing. So the problem was that I had burnt myself completely out by the time I was 45. I was managing too much money, worrying too much, and finally my physiology broke down and there was really nothing left. So you could say that I was a very old man at 45, near death. But I still had a young wife and I had a young son, and fortunately I had savings so I could sit back and slowly dissipate the savings, have a halfway decent life, and basically have the time and energy and effort, or time and money, to research my way out of what I was doing and hopefully have a better life for myself in the future. So I started, not knowing whether I would ever be able to recover from literally sitting there watching television, not being able to get up except to go to the bathroom. I was so wiped out, and this went on for years. But I spent money here, I spent money there on things that didn't work, and occasionally I would run across something that would give me a slight step ahead. But again, I was an old man, and I was retired at age 45, and I was probably I was undoubtedly more wiped out than most 65-year-olds when they retired. So I have had the perspective of having been retired at 63 for almost 20 years. And I know exactly what it feels like to be retired, and I know what it feels like to be out in the boneyard, and I know what it feels like to be incapable of functioning and all the rest of the stuff that many retired people find themselves in, because they're so tension-filled by the time they get to 65 that just getting into retirement is almost like reaching some kind of a goal so they can collapse at the finish line having made it through 65 years of competitive life. But let's talk about what the average 65-year-old, as an example, has accomplished, even though I'm not 65, but I am 63, so it's close. Most people that are my age and probably from 55 or even 50 on have received a very high-level education because the school system was much higher quality back then than it is now. And now the school system has been dumbed down to the lowest level because you've got a great big union situation with the school system, with the teachers' unions, that are a major component of one of the parties, that keep themselves employed by passing people that don't deserve to be passed. Now, I don't know whether it's true with many of you, but for myself, if I didn't make the grade when I was in high school, they'd just flunk you and leave you back a year. There was no remorse there. They didn't care. Now, they never flunk you. You can stay in there for 8 years if you want to, I suppose. What that's producing is people that can't function. It's producing people who are being put into supposedly high-level colleges without the grade point average or the test scores to get themselves actually in there, but they're being put in there to be politically correct. Even our Justice Sotomayor, who is being nominated right now, admits that she was a person who didn't actually academically deserve to be in the high-level schools that she went to, and so she was carried along. This happens with many people, not just minorities, but many. Certainly happening with everyone now, and what it means is teachers can't teach because the people are completely bored and filled with classes are filled with people that don't belong there. They should be failed. They should be out doing something that doesn't require academic training. What that means is that intellectually, older people are highly superior to younger people. I'm not saying there aren't some people, younger people that have good educations. My son got an excellent education from Arizona State. But generally speaking, they're not very highly educated, and many of them don't get a decent education until they actually get to college. Sometimes it's even graduate school before they actually get a high-level education. So right now, the older people, this is one mark for them on a scoring card. They are more academically advanced than their young counterparts. They are certainly more advanced emotionally than their young counterparts, who have had nothing but consumption drummed into them by their parents and by the media for their entire lives. All they know how to do is consume, sit around, and have a good time. In most cases, they don't know how to compete. Why is that? Well, my folks came out of the Depression, and I got enough of that Depression and the hardships of World War II to be molded by it, so that I was absolutely driven by my folks and myself to push myself very hard academically and later on professionally as well. The young people today don't have that advantage because they've been given essentially a pass on achievement to a certain extent because of the dumbing down of the school system, the everything's cool buddy of MTV, and all the rest of it. The culture is basically one of just dronehood, sitting around doing very little and absorbing the culture and waiting for the government to take care of them in some way, which the government will do in some way for the exchange of a vote. So, again, one mark for the older people. They are emotionally and intellectually capable of being more competitive than the younger person. They also have a tremendous perspective. They have 40 more years of experience. So let's take a 20-year-old. A 20-year-old may have 5 to 7 years of actual experience where he's actually aware of anything. And I don't consider being in the 8th grade to be aware of anything. Maybe back in my era there was some awareness, but there certainly isn't a lot of awareness now as far as actually the sweep of history, which has been completely emasculated by these textbooks that have been published. We have no feeling about, the kids have very limited feeling about how the country was formed, the sacrifice and the work and the capitalism and all the things that required. All the big heroes like Washington, Lincoln that we knew about have all been removed and called themselves people who went out and slept with slaves and stuff like that, without any understanding of what they wrote and what incredibly high levels of achievement they all had, the heroic capabilities of Washington and Lincoln and all the rest. It's all been dumbed down into sort of a political jargon that doesn't have a lot to do with anything that really occurred back in those times, the histories that